Hello and welcome to episode number 66 of the Birth Words podcast. Today I'm going to interview my fellow doula and mother to two, soon to be three, Alisa Crawshaw, about her birth experiences and her perspectives about birth.
Welcome to Birth Words. Words are powerful. What are you doing with yours? In this podcast, birth doula and applied linguistics scholar Sarah Pixton invites you to be intentional, reflective, and empowering with your language as we come together to honor those who give birth. The work of Birth Words is to elevate the language surrounding pregnancy, birth, and the postpartum period. Nothing in this podcast should be taken as medical advice.
Alisa Crawshaw is a mother of two, soon to be three, boys and has enjoyed all of her birthing experiences. She is a photographer as well as a DONA certified doula. Birth became her passion when a friend asked if she would be willing to photograph her birth. Through that birth journey of her friend's successful VBAC, there was no turning back. Birth had to be a regular part of her life. In the birth world, she is what is referred to as a unicorn because her first birth was an orgasmic birth. Welcome, Alisa, to the Birth Words podcast.
Hi, Sarah. It's good to talk to you after being away from you for so long.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. It's good to hear your voice.
Uh-huh.
And we've been planning having this conversation for a while, and mostly you've been waiting on me to follow up. So I'm so glad that we get to talk today. Me
too.
And that my listeners get to hear about your unique and beautiful birth experiences.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start with you telling kind of as you were an expectant mother during your pregnancies, and we haven't really gone over this yet. You have two boys and you are preparing to have a third in the next couple months here. So during your pregnancies, what words do you use to identify yourself?
Probably it's different because when I was pregnant, I would use very different words to describe myself. But looking back now, for my first pregnancy, the word I would probably use is guided because I was very guided. I'm a very spiritual person, so I feel like angels were definitely guiding me on my journey there, as well as being guided by my midwife and the students that she had there. My story goes all the way back to high school when I first knew that I was going to be birthing at a birthing center.
Wow.
Rather than a hospital. So
that sounds
guided is probably what I would use.
I want to ask so many follow-up questions, but then I feel like we would just chat for 2 hours. And I know I promised you that this would be a fairly short call. So if we need to fill time at the end, I'll go back and be like, tell me more about guidance. But do you feel like that continued through? And remind me, do you use hypnobirthing when you?
I use a little bit of everything of what works for me.
Excellent.
I use a little bit of hypno babies. I use a little bit of birthing from within, and I use a little bit of just my own power and what I feel is right in the moment.
That's beautiful. And terminology wise, how do you refer to your birthing time or laboring, or what words do you use for that time?
Well, because I'm a doula as well, I'm okay with whatever terminology. I love using the words birthing time and stuff like that because there's something so peaceful about it. But I also understand correct medical terminology as to what they use to help understand the human body. So I understand both sides of it.
Okay. So during that time, your birthing time, or if we want to just be a little more vanilla, your labor, how would you describe yourself during those times for your previous experiences?
So I have a little bit of sensory processing disorder. I have a really hard time with bright lights and harsh sounds.
And your labor,
me,
nobody wants that anyway.
No. But I especially am sensitive to the type of vibrations that come into the room. So like the type of music that is being played is especially important because of the vibrations that is coming from that. And I need like low cello tones are just my jam when I'm in my birthing time. If you know who the piano guys are, they are, Stephen Sharp is who I listen to when I'm giving birth. So if he ever listens to this, then he can know he helps get babies out.
I wonder how many babies he's guided into this world with his.
Oh gosh. I think he would be honored to know. I hope he would be honored to know. But I am also very particular as to just volume of things. However, it's kind of interesting because I'm a very loud birther myself. I am a singer, and I use those low vibrations, as some people would put it, those low cow mooing sounds. Yeah. That's just, it helps kind of relax down there. So I don't feel so much pressure. I feel a lot more of a relaxation happening, and I'm able to understand what's going on in my body and be able to kind of just allow my body to do its thing. So as long as I can be loud myself, but not have any distractive, like I'm not huge on affirmations. I know a lot of people are.
Yeah.
But like affirmations during my birthing time is definitely more of like a just put them on a piece of paper and put them in front of me or something like that.
External noise coming in is distracting.
Unless
it's exactly the right cello tones.
Exactly.
Awesome.
But it's just that finding that power within myself to allow my body to do what it needs to do, and finding what I need to do to tune into that.
We've talked about you in that birthing time, in that space. Let's rewind a little bit again. And I want to talk about as you were preparing for your pregnancy and your birth experiences, and as you're doing that again right now, do you find that there are like ideas or frameworks about birth or ways of thinking that you'd been exposed to that you have to rework and work through to prepare yourself for a positive birth experience? And if so, tell me how you do that.
I think there is for almost anybody who hasn't been in a birthing environment or had very much education about it. Because, I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think everybody has to go through a little rewiring in their brain before their birthing time. And I definitely think I had to do that. And my high school child development teacher really helped with that. I come from a family of 7. So I come from a family of 7. So it's I had a lot of siblings go before me, and I had heard a lot of their stories, and I was like, I don't want that. Like, can't it be different?
Yeah.
And so, and it's funny because after I'm the first in my family to have an out of hospital birth, but after I did that, I had so many siblings come to me and they're like, man, I wish I would have done that. And so it was something that for me, you birth where you feel safe.
Right.
And my siblings didn't have the education or the rewiring, I guess. So
can you briefly tell about, sounds like your high school human development teacher played a role, like how did that rewiring happen for you?
I will try to briefly tell it.
Or we can just chat and it can go on and people will just listen.
Right. My high school child development teacher was a rock star. She was amazing at, she didn't show the typical video of the miracle of life, where you're sitting there watching a hospitalized birth of, a lot of birth trauma, in my opinion.
Right.
And she very unbiasedly gave us the information. She said, here are pros and cons of a hospital birth. Here are pros and cons of a birth center birth. And here are pros and cons of a hospital birth, or of a home birth. And I was able to look at the information and decide for myself.
Yeah.
And just the fact that she was willing to do that in such an unbiased way, instead of, well, you're not very smart if you don't go to the hospital. You don't care about your baby's life if you don't go to the hospital. She gave the information. She did what a good doula is supposed to do.
Yeah.
She gave the information without her opinion and let us decide for ourselves.
That's awesome.
And it was so incredible having that information beforehand.
Yeah, I love that happened to you beforehand, where I feel like when you're pregnant, and especially often these decisions don't really become real for people until they're third trimester. Yeah. Oh, I'm ready to have this baby. Now let me make sure this is where I want to have it. And by then you're so entrenched in whatever path you've already been on that it's really difficult to switch.
Yeah.
But I love that you were given that information at a time where you were able to reason through it and make a decision, and then you have years to sit and feel good with it, and then move forward with it when the time was right. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So if you had to describe your feelings about birth in one word, what word would it be and why?
Oh, goodness. My feelings about birth. Too many words. Probably my favorite one, and especially is for this season that it is for me, probably exalted. Ooh. Would be the word that I would pick for my feelings about birth.
How powerful.
I feel like no matter how, when, or why you become a mother, and you have your birthing time and all of that surrounds birth, whether it be, adoption or cesarean or whatever, what have you, however you are welcoming a life into your life, mm-hmm. You instantly in that moment become exalted. You have power placed within you and upon you and around you that is intangible. And I feel like far too often taken for granted, mm-hmm. and not realized. And that's why I love what I do as a doula, is that's my main goal. Is to help them realize how powerful they are now, mm-hmm. and how powerful they were before, but now it's unlocked.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Okay. I know you have lots of other just gems of wisdom. So just give us the little spurts of each of your gems of wisdom about a few other things about the role of words or language, mm-hmm. birth, and how we describe birth, how you would describe your birth experiences. Go.
Well,
blast us with your wisdom.
I feel like so much could be said about that, but a lot has already been said in most of your podcasts, especially the role of silence in a birth, and how it plays a huge role sometimes, and other times those words are just absolutely necessary, mm-hmm. and that I'm trying to think of the word, support, just that extra push of help from the words that we use. I've seen words hurt a birthing mother's plan, and I've seen words change a mother's plan for the better. So it's just incredible that role there. Also obviously for me, the role of silence is very important to me in unlocking my power. But I don't know. I feel like there are so many bits of gems of wisdom that you already have. As far as the first time I gave birth, it was just that orgasmic birth that I didn't even know was possible at the time. It was just incredible to have the environment that I could have that in. And then afterwards I would have been able to talk about it, but I was so like wondering why it happened.
Yeah.
That I wanted to just kind of keep those things in my heart for a while until I was ready to talk about them and to find the right words. I think that's important, the role of silence until you find the right words.
I really like that a lot because, like, before you're talking about physically in the birth space, the importance of the silence, but also like if someone is telling their story, giving them the silence and the space for silence so that they can be the one to come forward and speak the story rather than trying to tell someone's story for them.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little more about that experience, or?
I'm always willing to talk about it because, so I didn't even know, I had obviously been sexually active before then. And so I have a great partner. I have orgasm before then. So I knew what I was feeling. I just didn't know that it could happen during a birth.
Yeah.
And I think I had been working so hard and so long with my first birth because I had I had to wait for an emotional release to happen to really get into active labor with my first.
Yeah.
And so after that happened and after I finally, okay, now I can get things going. I have a posterior baby. Oh, that's great. Okay, let's keep going. And continuing on with that, just that moment of, is this ever going to come out of me?
Yeah.
And then experiencing that first, all right, his head is out, his head is here. And just the relief that just washed over me from the support that I had from my husband to my birth team to the student midwife who stepped into a role of a doula for me last minute because I did not hire a doula, which I definitely should have done for my first birth. But she was very important to me. But I'm just so grateful for everybody who was involved with that birth because it was such a blessing. And because of that, I have had such a positive outlook on birth. And I have been careful in the way that I have treated other mothers.
Yeah.
Because of that.
It sounds like you were just so mindful and careful about the environment that you would birth in and the people that would surround you in that space.
Yeah.
That you were able to discover just like the beauty and power and wonder of birth, and your body said, hey, in case you weren't aware, this is awesome. You are doing something crazy amazing. So that's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I love especially to hear really empowering, beautiful first birth experiences. Second and third birth experiences that are beautiful and empowering are so awesome, but so many times I feel like they come after a first birth that somebody's like, I'm not doing that way again. I got to find a different way to do it. And then we go on to have a beautiful experience. But I love to find those stories of people who with their first experience were thoughtful and mindful and had their options presented before them and made choices not based on the environment that they were swimming in, but like what they actually preferred and based on the knowledge of the pros and cons of various choices and where they felt safe. Like, I love it. I love it.
And that's definitely why I choose the word guided now, because I realize how blessed and how privileged I was to be able to have those experiences and to be able to make those choices, because I know that not everyone has them. And that's why I want to make a difference in the birth world. Is I want to educate people in the same way that I was educated, in an unbiased way, and help them to find those choices that are best for them so that they can feel excited about giving birth again if that's what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I'm so glad you're doing this work. So good to talk with you about it.
Thank you for letting me talk about it. I appreciate it.
I enjoyed it.
If you're interested in sharing your ideas or experiences on the podcast, go to birthwords.com. If you're liking what you hear, please leave a review on your podcast app. For more resources about language for a better birth, subscribe to the monthly newsletter at birthwords.com and follow Birthwords on Instagram and Facebook.